could they spend months planning this and nobody saying anything seemingly but do it?
This is certainly one of the main objectives, one of the things people have a hard time understanding or imagining. You have to think back, there's precedent for this. We don't have to guess at whether or not this can happen. We know that this kind of thing has happened before. There's, first of all, some assumptions to the question. One of the assumptions to the question is that if someone talked, they would have talked to someone who could do something about this to get publicity. And that person would then go and do those things to get publicity. And no one else could stop it from getting that publicity. Operation Gladio is the best example of how a large criminal enterprise orchestrated by elements high in Western governments can go on for a long time before anybody talks about it having any effect. There are other precedents that people talk about, and I think this is the most clear and solid. Nobody involved in that could have thought that they were not killing innocent people. They certainly knew what they were doing. And I encourage you to look at the history of that. Operation Gladio, Alex Jones talks about that in Terror Storm, and there are books about it. It's very well researched. And it only came out because one person started getting pursued by the Italian government, and he got so much heat on him, he said, okay, yeah, I was involved in that. And guess what? A whole bunch of other people were too. And so then, it got kind of hushed up after that. But it came out, and books have been written. And how many of you have heard of Operation Gladio? About half of this group. Of course, out there in the world, you don't hear it, and rather talk about that. So it's, there's a lot of meaning behind that expression. People at the top. Another big part of it is after the fact of 9/11. Why do people talk about other crimes they were involved in? Usually they talk because they're facing a trial themselves. We don't have anybody facing a trial for this other than patsies, right? We don't have any high-level people in our government. We don't have NIST. We don't have anybody. I don't want to point specific fingers because I don't know who did it, but I'm saying the people who could have done it, none of them are under indictment. They're not in a position to have any pressure on them to sell out their co-conspirators. And they know what would happen if they did that and then nothing else happened, right? They don't have to be threatened. This is the people who did this are the most powerful lobby the world has ever seen. They don't have to be, nobody has to get it in their face. So.
Commendable that we're looking for a new investigation, but I believe one of the things also that we need to look at is that even if we get an investigation, an independent investigation, if we come close to certain high individuals, a lot of times in history they pull out the National Security Act. So, we need to find a way to repeal that.
That actually is one reason why I became more interested in the World Trade Center, because I felt like the national security cover was less likely to become a problem, say as compared to the Pentagon. And it would be more difficult to use national security as the stonewalling of the World Trade Center part of it. But just on the idea of the investigation, we really haven't talked about the international nature of what we're trying to do here. There's a lot of interest in other countries, and they're doing what they can. There's similar groups, like, in several places in Europe and in Japan, and just all around the world. And so there becomes a question of whether it would possibly be an international investigation that actually would have a better chance of becoming successful. And I don't know how that would play itself out, because the whole idea of the United States probably wouldn't be very cooperative with an international investigation.
If an international investigation concluded that there was widespread involvement from people who we couldn't really consider part of Al-Qaeda, that our media could be trusted to tell us all about that.
Well, you got the internet. The internet is a little bit more powerful these days.
There's many layers to the problem. It's really quite daunting, and it's amazing how much control elites have. There's an essay title I thought of the other day. I haven't written the essay yet. But the title would be, "It's Official, 9/11 was an inside job." Now, notice your reaction as you read the headline to this article. Notice how it changes your view of it, to think of it as being officially acknowledged. Why is it we are such, overused word, but sheeple? Why do we need it to be officially acknowledged, to act on it?
Let's give these guys another round of applause for coming from where they're coming from. Want to let everyone get out of here, but especially for students, I'm just going to give just like a 30-second thing. We're going to have a sign-up sheet outside if you find the information compelling. I put this event together pretty much all by myself because I know that once some students see this, you can't help but do something. So we're going to have a sign-up sheet in the back. We have about 8 members. None of them are really active yet, but I want to expand this club because there are other things, but even though 9/11 is really important, there are other things that are going on that 9/11 is a jumping off point. So, 9/11 was the basis for the evisceration of constitutional rights, the Military Commissions Act, the Patriot Act, violent radicalization, the Homegrown Terrorism Prevention Act of 2007. They constitute an extremely frightening curtailment of civil liberties, all in the name of September 11th. It all goes back to September 11th. Keep in mind that U.S. deaths from terrorism from 95 to 2005 were 3,147. You're 5 times as likely to die from a hernia and 40 times likely to die from accidental falling. Yet our DoD budget, the Department of Defense budget, has ballooned to now almost $700 billion annually. So sign the AE911Truth petition. We'll have free educational materials outside that you're free to take. There will be a sign-up sheet for Tutorials for Truth outside. I think we're coming upon to what, I buy it because I live in this generation, but I think we're coming on to what is going to be one of the most important eras in world history. Either this generation will choose to remain silent while the United States and other countries continue to perform false flag terrorism, and we're going to descend into despotism, or we're going to raise our voices. We're going to raise our voices in opposition to state-sponsored false flag events, fraudulent monetary policy, and shadow government. So stand up and be counted among the millions of people who are joining the 9/11 Truth movement. Stand up and be counted among the number of Americans who want to return to constitutional rights. Stand up and be counted among the many people who want to return to sound monetary policy. Do your own research. We've brought some experts, but do your own research. And I want to leave you with 2 quotes. One is from Cicero. "The searching out and thorough investigation of truth is the primary study of man." And the last is my favorite, from Martin Luther King Jr. "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." So, thank you all for coming, and